All right, let's factorize more trinomials. I have 7x squared minus 31 minus 20. So I want to find the product of my first and last term, which is negative 140. So instead of writing this as negative 140 and then finding the factors of it, there is another trick that we can apply here. What is that trick? So I can just write this as negative 20 times positive 7, and then I can find the factors of 20. So this negative sign just implies that your factors should be of the opposite sign. And why opposite sign? Because only if the factors are of opposite sign that you can find a negative product. So let's go ahead and find the factors of 20. So I can say 20 is 2 times 10, or 2 times 2 times 5 times 7. Now what should I do? I should find the group of numbers, the factors that add up to give me negative 31. So this is a hidden trial. I want to try with first 2 2s and a 5 and a 7. If I multiply 2 2s, it gives me 4, and then if I multiply 5 and 7, it gives me 35. And I know that if I take 35 and subtract 4 from it, it gives me 31, which is what we need. But we need negative 31. So since the sign in of the middle term is a negative term, the greater factor would be a negative factor here. So I will take 35 as a negative factor and 4 as a positive factor, and you can check that negative 35 times 4 will give you 140, and when you add them you get negative 31x. So I'll just go ahead and erase this all since we already have our factors. And now I will break apart my middle term. 7x squared minus 35x plus 4x minus 20. Now I have been often asked, does it matter in which order I put my factors in? Can I write 4x before 35? Absolutely yes, you can get it. If your mathematics is correct, you will get the right answer. So once I do that, now I have 4 terms. I should put the first 2 terms in one group and the last 2 terms in another group. So from my first 2 terms, the GCF of 7 and 35 is 7. And from my variables x squared and x, the GCF would be x. So I can write my 7x factored out. Now 7x squared, let me write it here. The first term is 7x squared. If you divide this with 7x, which is your GCF, what are you left with? So you will be just left with an x, and that's what we will write inside of this parentheses. Similarly, 35x over 7x just leaves it with 5. So I'm going to go ahead and write 5 and put the negative sign in between. For my second part, I use another trick. We need the same parentheses. So I go ahead and I always write the parentheses, and then I figure out what should I multiply this to get my last 2 terms. So I need 4x. I can go ahead and write, because I need positive 4x, I can go ahead and write positive 4. And just to check my work, I can see that 4 times negative 50 gives me negative 20, which is what we need. So I'll just go ahead and just erase this mess a little bit, and now we have our factors. Let's write them in our final answer. So x minus 5, common parentheses. Now when we get to this point, we have explained this. I have explained this in my previous videos, but what happens in this case? So imagine that you have 7x and a and 4 and a. Now if you take 2 terms and see a common factor, that common factor would be a. What will you do if you have been asked to factor out the common factor? You will take that factor out, and then you can take this factor and divide with 7xa, or you can just figure out, if I take out what is left from the first term, I am left with 7x from the first term, and from the last term I would be just left with 4. So now imagine, instead of that a, we have x minus 5. So x minus 5 is our common term. I can factor this out. Now look at your first term. If you take out x minus 5, you will be left with 7x. So I will go ahead, put a parenthesis, write 7x. And now check your last term, and if from the last term if you take out 7x, what would you be left with? You would be left with positive 4. So my two factors are x minus 5 and 7x plus 4. Keep watching Math Easy for more math related videos. Bye and subscribe my channel. Like and comment.